Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and test out my YDD HHB submersible pump. I purchased this to do water changes on our aquariums. My son and I have 9 aquariums, 8 of which are in the basement, and there's no water supply or close by drain. There's a sump pump about 40 feet away, and to fill it I have to use a sink upstairs. It's about 62 feet away, or that's how much hose I cut off, and you'll see that later in the video. At any rate, the pump came with 3 attachments. I'm using a 1/2 inch inside diameter, which is the smallest. There's also 3/8 and 5/8 and 3/4. So certainly with the larger attachments, the flow would be greater. Now it comes with a typical Chinese instruction manual. It says it has a decomposition graph of the pump, whatever that is. And you can see the impeller is kind of like what you find in a power filter. However, it's significantly bigger. Now this pump, the intake is here. You can turn the screen on the intake to lessen the flow rate. This video, I'll have to edit it, but I've actually done some testing on the pump already, and while it claims 900 gallons per hour, I think that equates to 3,500 liters per hour. When I tested it with about 3 feet of 1/2 inch hose, it was doing about 7 gallons per minute, which equates to about 450 gallons per hour. So about half of what its claimed rate is. I'm not upset about that for 2 reasons. One, I was using the 1/2 inch size fitting. Certainly it would flow faster with a larger diameter hose. And 2, for my purposes, I think it'll be sufficiently powerful. It is nice that the intake is on the side of the pump, so when it sits in the aquarium, it shouldn't suck up a bunch of sand. I'll still probably put a rock or something underneath it. It claims also that it's 60 watts is the power usage. From looking at other pumps, that seems really high, so I don't know if that's necessarily accurate. The power cord seems, well constructed, at pretty heavy gauge. So yeah, overall, a good pump for the price, as long as it holds up. It was on sale when I purchased it for $12.59. Normally it was closer to $18. I'm almost tempted to buy a second one just in case it does eventually fail. But if you're using it for a pond, that's probably much more of a concern. Since I'm only using it for water changes, it only get used for an hour or 2 a week at most, and it should last a lot longer. I tested it with about a 3-foot long piece of 1/2 inch hose on it, and it pumped out about a little more than 7 gallons per minute. So we'll go ahead and try it with a 100-foot hose on here and see how much less flow we get. And I'll start the timer right now. Looks like that's a pretty good flow rate. Not nearly as fast as it was with 3 feet of hose. However, that's probably pretty close to how fast the water would come out when I normally siphon a tank. And again, I only need about 75 feet, and this is running through about 100 feet of hose. So it will be a little quicker than this once I trim the hose down to 75 feet. There we are. It's coming down. So at this rate, it's a 75-gallon tank. I usually do a 50% water change. So figure there's rocks and gravel in there, and half the volume of the tank's probably closer to 35 gallons. So if it's doing 1.5 gallons a minute, in 10 minutes it'll be 15 gallons, in 20 minutes it would be 30 gallons. So it should be able to remove the water in maybe 25 minutes or so, and a little quicker than that when I have less hose. I need to go ahead and unplug this. We're at 3 minutes and the bucket's almost full. All right, so with 100 feet of hose, we were getting about 1.5 gallons per minute. I'm gonna go ahead and try it now after I cut the hose. I actually needed about 62 feet. So we'll see, hopefully I'll get up to 2 gallons per minute, or who knows, maybe even a little bit more. I'm gonna go ahead and start the new bucket. Here it comes. All right, starting timing at 36 seconds on my counter. You can see that's a decent flow. We're at 1 minute now, and the bucket is, I'd say it has about 2 gallons in it. So I think we're getting closer to 2 gallons per minute. We'll go ahead for 2 full minutes and see where it is on the bucket. But filling the tank, it'll be plenty of power because the sink probably puts out 2 gallons per minute. Plus it'll be pushing the water downstairs from the next story up, so that should only make it go faster. So I might actually have to dial back the flow in the pump, which should not be a problem because there's an adjustment there where you can actually close that intake and it should slow it down. All right, so we still have 10 seconds left, so it's going to be close to 2.5 gallons a minute, certainly over 2. All right, right now we are at 2 minutes, and as you can see, it was over 4 gallons. So we'll call that 2.25. And you know, if you only needed, say, 30 feet, well, I got 7 gallons, a little over 7 gallons per minute with about 3 feet of hose. So you might get 4 or 5 gallons per minute. All right, I'm trying this pump out now in my 20 long. I just emptied my 10 gallon, or did like a 50% water change in literally well under a minute. With a 3-foot piece of hose on here, it flies. Again, it's probably more than 7 gallons per minute. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug this in and we'll empty this tank out. Hello. Pretty aggressive. I have 2 5-gallon buckets here, so let's see how long it takes. And this works well because my 20 long and my 10 gallon are so low that they're really slow to siphon. Now, of course, this isn't replacing siphoning the gravel, but for just a quick water change, it's great. So that was 5 gallons in well under a minute. Well, there you go. I'm gonna go ahead and stop filming so I can unplug this when I need to. I never intend on using the pump to refill the tank like this, but this tank is pretty tall. The top of it's nearly 5 feet, and the water level is probably every bit of 4.5 feet or so. So we'll go ahead and fire this pump back up, and we'll see how long it takes to refill the tank with that much head on it. It'll probably be pretty slow, but this may be helpful for some folks that are considering using this pump. All right, I just plugged it in, and we'll start the timer at 37 seconds into the video, or this part of the video. This is through about 62 feet of 1/2-inch tubing. All right, right now we're at a minute, and it may only put a little more than a gallon in there. But if you had a small tank and needed a transfer pump to pump the water from a bucket up into the tank because you didn't want to lift the bucket, you know, 10 or 20 gallon tank, you'd only be doing 5 or 10 gallons probably for a water change. It would work well for that use as well. So yeah, as long as this pump holds up, it looks really promising. It should be a nice addition to the equipment I have. All right, now I'm filling the tank. The pump's actually pumping quicker than my sink can supply water, so I adjust the flow rate of the pump. That's why there's air bubbles coming out, and I think I have it pretty close to the speed that it's coming out of the sink. But at any rate, this is working great. I knocked out all our tanks, my son and I did, pretty quickly, and now we're just filling them. So we put chlorine dechlorination drops in here, and in about 15 or 20 minutes it should be full. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and test how well putting chlorine drops in ahead of time works. Here's water from the tank. Here's the chlorine test solution. And it's perfectly clear, indicating there is no chlorine. And if I take this upstairs, okay, now if I test the tap water, we're on city water here. Well, it's already turning yellow from the residual drop that was in there, but you can see instantly turns yellow. So the dechlorination drops are amazing. They like instantly deactivate it. So it seems safe. I don't think it's hurting the fish in any way to just put chlorinated water directly into the aquarium, provided that the tank already has dechlorination drops in it. And also this pump really is only needed in short spurts. Most of the effort to get the water down into the tanks in the basement is through siphoning. So, you know, when I originally put the pump on, it starts to siphon, but it pumps more quickly than my faucet can supply water. So I found just unplugging it and letting it go, it's good for 5 or 10 minutes, and I can plug this in and draw the water back down. Or you can fiddle with the flow adjuster on the pump to get it pretty equal. But it's not very labor intensive, only every 5 or 10 minutes at most, doesn't need to be adjusted. So this setup works great. The pump works amazing. It's plenty powerful for my purposes. If I had a larger tank, like a 125 or bigger, perhaps I'd want bigger than a 1/2 inch inside diameter tubing. But for my purposes, this is good. And certainly if you want to go with 5/8 or 3/4 inside diameter, it'd be a lot quicker. Alright guys, thanks for watching.